parallel universe of football fantasies, imagine the power to reshape history by simply relocating players across national borders. Picture Messi donning the yellow jersey of Brazil, orchestrating alongside Neymar and Coutinho, or envision Ronaldo, the Brazilian phenomenon, weaving through defenses in the iconic white of Real Madrid. These imaginary scenarios not only alter the course of their careers, but redefine the very essence of football rivalries and legends. Join me as we journey through this alternate reality where the boundaries of national identity blur and the beautiful game takes on a whole new dimension of possibilities. These are 10 players who could have achieved more with other countries. 1. Cristiano Ronaldo. All his life, he has had to fight. While other greats like Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe found themselves in countries with some international pedigree, Ronaldo was born in a country that had never won a major trophy before him. In fact, before he made his international debut in 2003, Portugal had only qualified for the Euros 3 times in the previous 11 editions, and the World Cup 3 times in the previous 16. But since Ronaldo made his debut, Portugal have never failed to qualify for either the Euros or the World Cup, and he has even managed to win them the Euros and the Nations League. But now, just imagine for a second that Cristiano Ronaldo was born in Brazil like the other Ronaldo. If he was able to achieve all of this with a Portugal team that didn't have much footballing history, just imagine how much more he'd have done with Brazil. He'll almost certainly be a world champion by now. 2. Robert Lewandowski. Just imagine if Lewandowski was like Lukas Podolski, born in Poland but represented Germany on the international stage. He certainly would have been a world champion by now. Hell, he might even be up there as the all-time top scorer in World Cup history. Lewandowski played in Germany for most of his club career, and his time there surely proves that he'd have been a perfect fit for their national team. Before Lewandowski, Poland never qualified for the Euros. But with him, they've never failed to qualify for the Euros, even reaching the quarterfinals once. Imagine taking this goal machine and putting in Germany. He'd have maybe won 2 World Cups and a Euros. I mean, if Podolski could win the World Cup and reach a Euros final, surely Lewandowski would have done more. 3. Harry Kane. Just imagine if Harry Kane was in that Belgium golden generation. They would have conquered the world. Belgium largely underachieved for the quality they had, but one big issue was that Lukaku missed a lot of chances. With the creativity of Hazard and De Bruyne, Kane would have scored a truckload of goals. And this is not even crazy to say. Man City had De Bruyne for years, and they never won the Champions League, because the guys up front kept wasting the chances he created. But the moment they bought a goal machine who could convert those chances, they won it all in the first season. 4. Erling Haaland. That goal machine, of course, is Erling Haaland. And just take a second to imagine him playing for Germany right now. People say that Germany plays like a well-oiled machine, and which one player in world football fits that description better than Haaland? Julian Nagelsmann appears to be doing a good job with Germany right now, and if Haaland were to be in that team, then you'd be sure he'd retire with an international legacy that could rival that of Mbappe. 5. Karim Benzema. Speaking of Mbappe reminds us of a certain Frenchman, Karim Benzema. Benzema is perhaps the biggest outlier on this list. This guy was one of the most gifted strikers of his generation. He played for Madrid and was a French citizen. Perfect combination, right? Well, it should have been, but he got himself involved in some ugly stuff in the France national team and ended up missing out on France's best years. This is where the imagination comes in. Imagine he was born in the Netherlands. He would not have gotten himself involved in all that BS in France. Instead, he'd have formed a crazy strike partnership with Van Persie, and maybe the Dutch would have won the 2010 World Cup final with him in the team. In fact, Benzema would probably still be going strong with the Netherlands right now. They still don't have a top striker, and you can see how Benzema in that team turns them to favorites at every competition. 6. Virgil van Dijk. And now that we're in the Netherlands, we can't help but imagine how different Virgil van Dijk's career would have been if he was Italian. Italy has always been the home of world-class defenders. From Baresi to Maldini to Cannavaro to Bonucci and Chiellini, Virgil would have fit in so perfectly, man. And he'll also have had a much better international legacy than he currently does. 7. Mo Salah. What about Van Dijk's Liverpool teammate Mo Salah? Imagine Salah in Belgium's golden generation. That team, in spite of how good it was, never really had a strong right wing. Imagine if you had a front four of Hazard, Lukaku, Salah, and De Bruyne. Nah, they would have been so untouchable. And yes, we know we said earlier that Lukaku misses a lot of chances, but when you have a winger like Salah on the team, the striker doesn't have to worry much about scoring. Ask Firmino. If Salah was in that Belgium team, he'd certainly have achieved more. I mean, imagine Salah in that red-hot form he was in back in 2018 going into the World Cup with Belgium. He would almost certainly have scored against France in that semi-final, and they would very likely have won against Croatia in the final. 8. Luka Modric. Speaking of Croatia, Luka Modric certainly has to be on this list. Modric has done a lot for Croatia, a whole lot. He has taken them to the World Cup and Nations League finals. This is a country that hadn't gotten past the group stage of the World Cup since 1998 and didn't even qualify in 2010. Now, imagine if you carried Modric with his abilities and mentality and put him in Spain. Wow! Spain would have dominated the international scene for 15 straight years. Imagine going from years of Xavi and Iniesta to years of Modric, Rodri, and Busquets. They would have been unplayable. Obviously, the quality in Spain dropped after Xavi, Iniesta, Alonso, Torres, David Villa, and the likes left, and that's why they suffered for a bit. So just imagine they had a guy like Modric coming after them. The domination would have continued. I mean, if Modric could take Croatia to a World Cup final, he certainly could have won it all with Spain. 9. Gareth Bale. Let's also talk about Modric's former teammate Gareth Bale. When you talk about carry jobs on the international stage, Bale is one of the greatest to have ever done it. Before him, Wales had gigs, but they never qualified for the Euros and had only qualified for the World Cup. Once, long ago in 1958. But Bale came through, led Wales to their first ever Euros in 2016, and even helped them reach the quarter-finals that year. Then he also went on to lead them to their first World Cup in 64 years in 2022. Now we know that Bale is proud to have represented Wales, and he wouldn't have had it any other way. But just imagine he agreed to represent England instead. Wow! He would have been that X factor that England have been lacking in the biggest games. Bale is a guy who can win you a big game all by himself, whether with a shot from distance, a set piece, a solo run, a header, a tap-in, whatever. He has it all in his arsenal. We saw him single-handedly win finals for Madrid against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey and against Liverpool in the Champions League. If England had him in that final against Italy, he'd surely have single-handedly ended the game in the 90 with some kind of crazy screamer that nobody saw coming. 10. Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Speaking of screamers, one man who definitely scored those is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And just from the sound of his name, he certainly would have fit right into the Croatian national team. And if Modric had a GO8 striker like Zlatan up front, Croatia would surely have had a gold medal by now. Even if it wasn't the World Cup, maybe the Nations League or the Euros, they'd surely have had something. No, for real. Think about it. Modric, Rakitic, Perisic, Kovacic, and Ibrahimovic would have been a scary combo for any opponent to handle. Anyway, how about you guys keep the imagination going in the comments? What players would have achieved more if they were playing for a different country? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one.